Hey everyone, Carl here with Literate Lessons, and today we're going to be covering the European Pokemon International Championship meta. There was a lot of really cool things going on, and then a lot of the same stuff that we've been seeing from Regulation C as a whole. So today we're going to kind of touch on what's new, what's been popular, and kind of look at some big overall stats. Shout out to one of our mods over at the Discord server, Tim, for their help here getting all of this data. This is all of the data from the RK9 page using one of his upcoming tools called Lab Mouse. And what it does is it takes all the data and it breaks it down, and yeah, it should be a Discord bot here in the next couple months, maybe a little bit sooner, maybe a little bit later. But overall, it'll be great to have that looking at large data sets like we do for EUIC. So, the elephant in the room. Fluttermane, 611 copies, 79% of the meta at EUIC. Is this as bad as Incineroar? I'm not sure. Ghost and Fairy is such a strong typing, and it's so fast, and it hits so hard that it makes sense that this would be a popular Pokemon. Looking through the rest of it, we'll talk about all of these Pokemon here in a minute. Amoonguss, Arcanine, Palafin, Ting-Lu. They make up what's known as the Palance or Balance Core, just because it's got very good synergies with each other, and they cover a lot of this, like each other's weaknesses. Overall, it's a very strong 5 Pokemon core, and we'll talk about some resemblances to previous powerful cores here in a minute. Finishing out the top Pokemon there's Chien-Pao and Dragonite, both very, very strong, both very, very popular, and then Chi-Yu rounding out the top 8. Looking at pairs, it's not surprising to see that all of the pairs are the Palance core. Amoonguss Fluttermane being the biggest one, which makes the most sense. Next would be Arcanine Fluttermane, Amoonguss Palafin, Amoonguss Arcanine. You kind of get the idea there. Shifting over to the top teams, though, congrats to Paul Chua for taking down EUIC, further cementing their overall CP lead. I'm assuming they're pretty dang close to either taking over number 1 or is at that number 1 slot. But not surprising to see that there's 2 very strong Palance core teams with a dragon type just kind of slotted in there. I think both Roaring Moon, Baxcalibur, Dragapult, Dragonite, whichever dragon you kind of want to slot into that last slot, it really kind of just works out. Heck, you could probably start playing things like Hydreigon maybe to have a better matchup against Ting-Lu. I'm not sure. Looking through the rest of this, there is a couple Dragonite and Chien-Pao teams, a couple Goldango, which is finally starting to come back, one Mouse Ape team, one or two, there's 3 bundles, 1 Dondozo, 2 Dondozo total. Cool, 2 Dondozo, awesome. Dondozo is something that I'm surprised is doing well still, but I think the Dondozo teams are more reliant on like things like Lamora and other like special attacking Pokemon kind of getting a good lead rather than Dondozo actually being the overall threat itself. We'll see how that goes as the format continues to develop. Looking through some other usage stats there's Iron Hands, there's 2 Iron Hands that I can count, there's only 2 Chi-Yu, which are both on the Dondozo teams, which is very, like I said, is very common. It's going to be more of a, here's my special attacker plus Chi-Yu, we're going to pick up 2 KOs or 3 KOs or however many KOs. Oh, here's Dozo because you can't deal with Dozo. I feel like that's how the team wins most of the time anymore, and it's not that great. Looking through it, these are actually the exact same team in just different order. And if I went to RK9 or VR Victory Road's website, I'm pretty sure that they are pretty much the same team. Let me take a look here real quick. After confirming my thoughts and suspicions there, they are in fact the exact same team, just in a different order. So I'm not surprised to see them both in top 4. Probably both lost out to Paul and Gabriel, just because the Palance team has a very strong matchup into that, I feel like. James Evans' team is very, very cool. It's probably the most unique of the bunch, I would say. Having that Garchomp and that Chien Pao combo is a very, very powerful thing. One of the cool things we started to see with Chien Pao is to go Terra Flying, so you can Earthquake spam next to it. And especially on something like Garchomp, it's going to hit a ton and it's going to hurt. Ground coverage is still very, very strong, even though people have been worried about Fissure on Ting Lu and not really making up any kind of changes for it. It's still going to be a very powerful thing. I would expect to see Chien Pao plus Dragon type Pokemon be a very popular core for a long time in this format. Some other interesting notes here. There's top Terra types broken down right next to my head here. Water way out in front. I'm not sure if that's just part of like people just having Terra Water like Pokemon that are just water types and they don't care to change the typing. I know Palafin makes up about 284 of those most likely, so that's a big chunk of it. When everyone's playing Palafin, everybody's Terra Water most of the time. Arcanine's most common Terra type nowadays is water as well, so it's not surprising to see things like that along with Bundle and other water types like Tatsugiri maybe. So water being head and shoulders the most popular Terra type among Pokemon, not surprising. Water's always been a very strong defensive typing, only having 2 weaknesses and some pretty good resistances. After water, we have grass at number 2, fairy at number 3. Both of those are very, very close to each other. Ghost at 500 exactly means that most of the time it's likely just like Chi-Yu or Talonflame, maybe Goldango, maybe some other supporty Pokemon like Murkrow or something like that. Fire type Terra has definitely fallen off out of favor compared to what it's used to been. Back in the earlier formats, you would see Steel and Fire be the most popular Terra types, and now that's just not the case because people have kind of adapted, and there's things like Ting Lu running around that are just going to eat up those Terra types. Looking over items, safety goggles, most popular item. I'm not surprised with how popular Amoonguss is. Spore is something you really have to play around. Arcanine's also very, very popular. So having access to safety goggles on things like Arcanine or Talonflame can really be beneficial for your team. Just having a known, I can answer Amoonguss if I need to. Assault Vest, a lot of these Glimmora are starting to play Assault Vest, which I'm not surprised. It's a very powerful tool on that Pokemon because that Pokemon only really wants to run all attacks, and sometimes with your choice specs being on other items or choice scarf not being available, Glimmora having that assault vest and that extra bulk is beneficial. Citrus Berry, Booster Energy, Focus Sash, choice specs, all kind of just common Regulation C items. We're not crazy things here. 268 Mystic Water with 284 Palafin. That means that there's some number of Palafin not playing Mystic Water. That'll be interesting to see, like, where that pops up, how good that actually is, if that's something that starts to get changed, as Palafin maybe branch out into things like Ice Punch, Close Combat, and the like to kind of beat the mirror. So now the meat and potatoes of this episode. Why is Palance so good? Why is this team doing so well? This is giving off very much of like the chalk level of team vibes, where it's just, here's these 5 Pokemon, you can play with these 5 Pokemon, you will win most of your games because the 5 Pokemon on this team can just do anything you want it to, and then you have your tech Pokemon in your 6th slot to help a certain matchup if you have a hard time playing against it. In the case of Paul Chua's team, they were playing Roaring Moon, which I am surprised that we aren't seeing more of this Pokemon. Overall, it is one of my favorite like Paradox forms, just being able to hit things really hard but still have extra decent bulk. A lot of the times they were doing like Booster Energy Acrobatics for a while. I believe Paul Chua's was specifically Booster Energy Acrobatics, yes. Booster Energy, Acrobatics, Throat Chop, Dragon Dance, and Protect. Overall, it's a very powerful Pokemon. I know Baxcalibur is another popular Pokemon on this team, mainly just because it helps answer the Ting Lu matchup. In case your Palafin isn't enough, you can always bring Baxcalibur on that squad. You can also do really cool things with its Terra type. Things like Terra Poison is very popular, as in the case of Gabriel's team, which I believe was Terra Poison, Terra Blast. No, it was just Terra Poison, with Icicle Shard, Glaive Rush, and Ice Shard, just looking to hit you very, very hard, carrying that Clear Amulet. Okay, that's interesting. The 5 Mons here of Palafin, Amoonguss, Tinglu, etc., they're just very, very strong. There's not a lot of weaknesses that are shared between between these 5, and there's at least usually a couple answers for other weaknesses on this team, like Tinglu being a ground type, weak to grass, weak to water, Fluttermane's kind of carrying Thunderbolt, Amoonguss can take those water type attacks, Palafin can take those water type attacks, Arcanine's there to answer grass types, ice types, and the like. You kind of got to get the picture here where it's just like, this Pokemon has X weaknesses. Well, the rest of the team can kind of help answer that. And you could literally just plug and play any of those Pokemon onto that side and kind of figure it out. So the challenge going forward in this format will either be, A, can we figure out how to break this 5-Mon core and essentially push it out of the format, or B, does everybody accept this as the best thing and kind of migrate towards that? I'm expecting B to be the option because we're not going to have much longer on Regulation C. Regulation C ends in June, just before NAIC, and so I expect people to kind of just ride the wave of Palafin balance, and I expect that to just be the norm going forward. But that's all I got this week. I hope you found some insight into EUIC, maybe looking forward to things like Milwaukee or Hartford or any of these other upcoming events that are Regulation C. If you're looking for the secret tech, honestly, just play the Palafin balance team. That's all I can tell you. If you're looking to do well, get reps with this, learn the matchup, learn the mirror, and bring a very cool tech Pokemon. Baxcalibur is probably my number 1 favorite, but I'm sure there's plenty of others that you can bring along for that ride. If you like what you see, make sure to do all that fun YouTube stuff for us on your way out. Like, comment, subscribe. It helps us out a lot, and we will see you all next week for another deep dive. Bye, everyone.